Hey, we're getting ready to start, but before we started, we're sitting here and I lean back and I look down. Guess what I noticed? We'll take a guess. Something you tell me a lot. Ask me.
What are you doing?
My zipper.
Oh.
I had to explain. Is it an age thing? Because Chrissy has to ask me all the time now, is your zipper up? Well, we're sitting here, we're getting ready, and I look down. There she is, all the way down. I said, well, so Chris said, you're going to have to tell her. I said, well, we'll tell her right now. You forgot to tell me my zipper was up when I left.
I didn't even think about it. You were rushing out the door.
Yeah, and I would have been early. However, that damn banner. I was probably getting ready to turn onto the bypass, and Chrissy calls and says, you forgot the banner. So that Dan Young.
So this is Dan Young.
Absolutely. That I was here right on time, yes. Well, I'll probably have to bring that up.
Oh, absolutely. I'll have to talk with him.
All right, and I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third Broken Nock podcast. I am one of your hosts, Chris DePerna. Also, those of you know me from Creek Archery. And again, my lovely daughter beside me, oldest, Miss Megan DePerna.
Hello.
Hello. And on the other end of the table here from me, switch seats on me, huh?
I did.
Mr. Ken Reese.
Yeah, we're gonna have an interactive episode here today.
Yeah, I think that's what we're looking for. You know?
Absolutely.
So it's gonna be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, today's guest is a character. I mean, I don't know what else to say. He is an absolute character. But this is gonna be a good one because this is something that's close to us, very good friend of ours, and just what we're going to be talking about today is something that we use personally, we sell here at Creek Archery, and is a local product. And I can promise you, if you have not seen or used one of these, it is the absolute, in my opinion, best calls on the market. And so with that, today we have Mr. Todd Rupert from Rupert's Roost in Peace Turkey Calls. How you doing, Todd?
Thank you, Chris. I'm doing fine, Chris. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Ken.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, buddy.
That was very nice of you. Good. That was.
Buddy, it's no bullshit, man.
With me, buddy.
It's no bullshit. I mean, these calls that you make are just top notch. They are. I don't know what to say. I mean, there's when you were running that aluminum there, just setting up, man, I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, I'm ready to go in full strut.
Heck yeah.
I mean, I'm just telling you these. So what we want to talk about, obviously the calls and what you make and what you do here, and but just like with our past guests that we had, we like to dig in deep. We like to go back to the roots, back to kind of where this began for you, the passion you have for this, and why Rupert's Roost in Peace Turkey Calls exist. What is it that whether it was back when you were a young kid or what? Just tell us. Where'd this start for you?
Well, I can do that. When we talked on the phone the other night, and you mentioned to me that we were going to discuss me, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that, but we can.
Absolutely.
I was going to talk more about the call. I thought about that, how this would go, but we can do that. And I just, I don't want to. There's things that happen throughout this journey that I'm going to speak of that may come off as, I don't want it to be arrogant or horn tooting.
Mm-hmm.
But some of that stuff, when I say it, the stuff that's happened through this journey from day one is, I mean, you were here when I come down with Steve, and I mean, I cried in the
Absolutely.
You remember that?
The passion's there. I know that. The passion, the blood, sweat, the tears, everything's behind these calls. There's no doubt. And anybody that knows you knows that. And that's what we want our viewers and our listeners to understand, that, when you buy one of these calls, you're not just buying a turkey call.
No.
You're buying, part of you.
Well, that'll get me to lead into about me, I guess. I don't know if you knew this, but I was an avid archer. Did you know that?
No.
Yes. And had our paths crossed sooner, this may not be here.
Right.
I mean, really, it might not. I don't know that. But I was an avid archer, and the passion I had for that, it was high. I mean, I spent a lot of time in a tree stand, and obviously you know what that's all about, time and
absolutely
everything in that. And has life, I've always been a turkey hunter. Okay. And I've always liked taking people hunting. So if the people that end up watching this that I've hunted with over the years, we've done a lot of things together. We've went a lot of places, not a lot of states, but a lot of different locations and hunted turkey. And I've always liked taking people hunting, whether it was deer hunting, grouse hunting, pheasant hunting. And I was always a picture guy. And I was a picture guy before pictures were cool, if you get what I'm saying. Because now, everybody's laying on the ground, taking your angle pictures, getting below the deer, doing this. And I've always been a picture guy. And the friends that I would go with would be like, hey, Roop, that's enough. Come on, man. We're done. Let's go.
You spent a lot of time at photo hunt.
Photo hunt, but with a 35 millimeter, one click at a time. Did the flash go off? That kind of stuff,
Flash tubes.
You're right.
Dude, you're taking us back.
Then you got to wait for everything to get developed.
Yeah, and I couldn't wait, So I was that picture guy, and then you had the photo albums, you stuck them in, and they all come apart and all that. But anyways, I was always into the pictures. And I mean, I had friends go, literally, that's enough. And I still have those pictures to this day. But, if those guys come around and we start pulling out albums, they're the first one to say, man, I'm glad you did that.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So with the turkey calls, there were hunts that my buddies did or went on that I couldn't be there. And I wanted to be there, but I couldn't. I couldn't be at two places at one time, obviously. And there were things that they did. They killed good bucks and nice gobblers and things like that. And I'm getting ahead of myself, but with these turkey calls, I feel everyone's hands-on for me other than the mouth calls. Now it doesn't even have to be my friends, but when people that use my product, I tell them all, hey, if you get a call down at Creek or wherever, off of me, off the website, the Creek and any other stores I'm in, send me pics of that bird. Send me pics, even if you don't harvest, send me pics of you running a call. And when I get that stuff, they're holding that.
Right.
Or this, or that. And I made that.
And that's a good feeling.
So those pictures that I post on the page that are full of my product, I was there.
Right. Yeah, even if
I wasn't physically there.
Right.
But they got my call in their hand, and they're showing it with that dead gobbler, and my hands were on that to make that happen, that they have it. And I kind of find that pretty cool and humbling at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know whenever I, had first met you, and actually it was the first trip up to your house to, when we hooked up, when I was still with Steve with Keystone Wild Outdoors, and we came up. And and
in the basement.
In the basement.
And I'm still there, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but that the plans are to get out of there. Chrissy and I want to take down the garage and put a shop there so I can open things up, because I'm still in the basement.
Well, I remember when you were putting calls together for us. Everything was loose, nothing in the clamshells like we have here. And you're sitting there and you're running these calls. You're like, nah, not that one. And you're just going through strikers to calls and strikers. And man, every single one of them sounded fantastic to me. I'm like, let's head out right now on a hunt. But you have that ear for making sure that pot matches that striker.
I do that.
It has to.
The strikers are weighed, and no disrespect to any other call makers, call companies. I match a striker to each pot, to my ear, and I tell people if I'm there, if I'm able to be there for that purchase, whether it be at the show or a promo somewhere, and they buy a pot off me, I say, hey, go home and, that's the striker I'm recommending for that particular call. But go home, and if you got grandpap strikers or dad strikers, without mentioning any other mass call produced, use them on my pot, because you're getting one from me with that call that I recommend. But man, there could be a striker out there that just makes that call sing even better.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I weigh these. There's a certain gap in weight that they can be, and if they're low or they're high, I know it as soon as I touch that pot, and I'll run it before I glue it.
Yeah, so you put a lot of time in that.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot.
That's
what I mean. It's
yeah.
This isn't no call that you walk into Walmart and see. This is high end.
Right.
I mean,
and when it comes to that stuff, with this stuff you see at Walmart, I don't downplay anything that any of those companies have done. It is what it is. But I just take pride in this, and when people find that out, and that's with a lot of custom call makers, there's a lot of work involved, and there's hunters out there and outdoorsmen that respect that, and that moves product.
Yeah, these are pieces of art.
Yes.
They're not just...
Well, and people ask questions like, why would I come to Creek Archery and spend $85 on a turkey call? Well, it's custom. I made it.
Right.
It didn't come off a machine. I made that call, and we're going to let you hear it and run it, and then we'll see what you think for that extra $40, $50.
Right. So when did this? When did you realize that I'm going to start making turkey calls?
Well, turkey hunting, I believe I'm repeating myself, has always been in me. Meaning, I've always loved turkey hunting since I was old enough to hunt. My dad got me into it. My dad was a turkey hunter. Then there's that bracket, turkey hunter. There's levels of it. My dad never took it real serious, but he hunted turkeys, and he showed me the ropes. And my dad always says I always took things to extreme. And so I collected turkey calls for, I'm going to throw a year out there, 20 plus years. And hundreds and hundreds. We'll just say I had 400 turkey calls at one time.
And I've seen quite a few at your house.
Yeah. I mean, a lot are in totes. There's still hundreds in totes, but I display, thank you, Chrissy, turkey calls throughout the house. I mean, me and a buddy of mine made shelves. And there's just shelves running around, and there's box calls all over the house. They're now dust collectors. I dust them every once in a while, but...
No, but it is
the
cool
collection.
Looking. I mean,
it's
the
different.
Table that you have all up in the living room
with the lynches in it. Yes,
that's awesome.
Huh.
So,
you guys got to check it out sometimes.
It's cool.
Woody has is cool.
Yeah.
So I collected for a lot of years, and I used a lot of them, and some of them I didn't use. I knew that they had value, and like an old Alabama lynch, man, you put that away. Because if you crack it, I've seen them on eBay for $1,000.
Right.
Again, in the collecting side of things, they fluctuate like anything else. That call next month might be $800, and then 2 months from now, you can't get $350 for it on eBay. It's just weird how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, I collected for a lot of years. I said 20 plus, and that's, I'm probably accurate in saying that. But I went to Nashville in 2012. To the National Wild Turkey Federation convention with Scott Kennedy, Dan Murphy. There was 3 of us who rented a vehicle. We went down, and it was amazing. And I didn't realize, I knew turkey hunting was a big thing. There's more deer hunters, but turkey hunting was a big thing in this state, not as big as others. When I got to Nashville, my eyes opened to how big turkey hunting really is. Because I needed to see that to understand how big of a community it was for the sport.
Right.
I want to say that year, I mean, we could Google it because I know we went back in 2014 and the attendance was 50,000 people. Wow. They set their mark in 2014. They broke a record. They had never made 50,000, and in 2014, I believe, 50,000 people came through the door at Gaylord Opryland.
Wow, that's
So,
unbelievable.
yeah. So in 2012, I walked around this place just being a turkey hunter. And I'm seeing the guys in these booths making these calls, and there's just people rows deep, like.
Mhm.
And that's 500 booths. I'm throwing that number out there. It's an all-day walk, but every booth is turkey hunting something.
Yeah.
It's guns, it's calls, it's ammunition, it's clothing, it's shows, but it's all turkey hunting. I mean, it's the mega show.
Yeah,
of
it
all
still
shows.
goes on. Yeah.
Have you ever been to that?
I have not, and I want to go.
Bucket list.
Yes.
But I mean,
Yeah,
it
sure.
is
Mentioned that.
it
She
is
did.
Yeah.
Mhm.
unbelievable. And you got guys walking around there. In fact, I took a picture of this guy. He had a spur necklace on. I know it was 5 rows deep. I mean, it looked like a Mr. T Gold thing, but that deep, down to here. And I stopped that guy. And I said, hey, buddy, give me a little. He said, they're all Easterns. And I'm thinking, yeah, okay. Well, they were. And they were. There's a guy downstairs. We might own this place. Has that 3/4 inch and 3/4 spur. They were like that around his neck. Okay. And what I realized at that point is, yeah, you can grow that necklace by each state you hunt. Some states let you kill 4 or 5 turkeys on one tag. So if you would limit out in turkeys in 1 year, that's 10 spurs.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So if you do that and you keep your spurs and make a necklace, you can get her pretty big in a few years if you think about it.
Right.
But I was impressed. I ain't never seen nothing like that. I mean, literally, it was that thick down to here. It was huge.
Now, do you think the Eastern is one of the harder ones to hunt?
I don't think I know.
Okay, solves that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Straight up.
So whoever watches this-
that's super impressive. Then.
To whoever watches this when this airs, I wouldn't get much backlash from that or argument.
Yeah.
They are definitely the hardest bird to kill.
So outside of how many he had on, and even being able to take multiples, that's still an impressive thing.
Well, when I say Easterns, I'm talking Easterns run a long
Yes.
way up and down
Right.
the coast.
Right.
Pennsylvania Eastern birds, I don't know why. They're tough.
Yeah.
As you go down lower south, your Eastern, I'm not saying they're easier to kill, but that's where this guy was hammering these birds. And if you watch some of your videos on these hunting shows, that's where they're hunting.
Right.
They're killing Easterns, but they're south.
So yeah, I have one here that I've been after, and I've tried so many different things. It was 2 years ago that I tried to kill him out of a goose blind. Walt helped me set up in the middle of a
Really?
cornfield. I actually got that from talking with Larry McCoy about. I just said I have his bird. I can't kill him, and so Walt went with us. It was a cut cornfield. We put a layout blind down.
Okay.
Brushed it in, which is legal in Pennsylvania for that. And I put a single hen decoy out, laid in that blind that morning, never called once. Just laid there and looked out the hole, looking at that decoy. And all of a sudden he shows up. And I knew it was him because he's the only bird that stays, it's right by the farmer's house. He's got this big old oak tree he roosts in, and he's there every year. And that farmer lets me know he's there every year. I see him when I'm drinking coffee. But he showed up, and I got anxious. And I'd been hunting him for years. I mean, I couldn't get him close enough. This was the closest I got him. He's 10 yards. He's less than 10 yards at my feet.
You're gun hunting?
I'm gun hunting.
When you said Larry, I thought you were doing the...
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I did bow hunt this
Okay,
bird
okay.
the year before that. Had him at 65 yards, didn't feel comfortable, gobbled for an hour and a half, wouldn't come any closer. But then this year I'm laying there in the blind, gun hunting, and I should have waited for him to turn, go full strut. And in my mind, I'm like, he's here. I got so anxious. I pushed them doors open and threw that safety
SEAL
off.
Team 6.
And I think I'm pretty sure that bird lost a couple years off of his because I started firing at him, missed him, he flew, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding.
So he still lives.
He does, and so I had, Amy and I were in the car the one day, and I said, I got to kill this bird this year. I don't know how long they live. I said, but he's getting old, and I know it's him. So she looked it up. She says, wow, it says about 5.5 years,
Five and
roughly.
a half. And that's
I says, well, I'm doing a math. I said, if I don't kill him this year, he's dying of old age.
living
This
on a
is it.
farm, like kind of protected.
Yes, he is. But last year was cool because, and I guess I might as well lead into this now with you because of you saying about the bird that I had downstairs. So last year when I missed that bird, I was kind of bummed out about it. And I got up and I go back up to the farmhouse, and Jeff, the farmer's up there, and I told him what happened, and he's laughing at me. And he says, "You're never going to kill that bird." He says, "He's going to die of old age." He said, "But you know what?" He said, "There's some in the back pasture." He said, "I heard him back there." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, I just heard some." So we're standing there talking, and all of a sudden, I hear a couple gobbles. Well, I still had some time. The shop didn't have to open yet, so I'm like, you know what? I'll go back there. Long story short, I get back there. I get that bird in. I call one in, and I smoked him. 55-yard shot with that 410 with the TSS blades. What a hell of a gun that is.
You gotta do it to believe that it happens.
It's unreal. So anyhow, the reason I'm telling this is because this involves my buddy here, Mr. Todd Rupert. So I get this bird, I get home, and I got to get down here to open the archery shop because it's now getting late, and my wife's going to be jacked because we got to get here. So I just bring the bird with me. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to throw it in the smoker later this afternoon. So I bring the bird down, and I lay it on the floor in the back room.
Oh.
And Todd, remember this. So I lay that bird on the floor in the back room, and I come out front. And Todd just happened to come down that day because he needed a turkey blind. So he come down to pick up a blind that I got for him, and we're talking. And I said, "Yeah, I was out this morning. I killed one." He said, "Did you?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "He's laying on the floor in the back." He said, "I'm going to go check him out."
Yeah. I mean, dead turkey. I got to see it.
Yeah. So Todd goes in the back room, and I'm out front here in the shop, and he comes back, and he says, "Buddy, you got a spur gauge?" And I said, "Yeah, I got one. Here, take it." And I'll be honest with you. I mean, I know what a big whitetail looks like, but he wants a spur gauge. I've never used one. Okay, here it is. Todd goes, takes that spur gauge, and I'm still out front. He comes back out. He says, "I don't think you know what you got here." And I didn't. No, I didn't. I said, "What do you mean?" And he starts explaining to me.
Yes.
"Man, this thing's got 1 3/4 spurs on it." I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, he's going in my Traeger later on." He's like, No. You don't understand.
You don't understand. I remember saying it. I've had my hands on, I don't want to hundreds of turkey spurs of dead turkeys. Critiquing them, looking at them, from Jakes to Longbeards. And have I ever laid my hands, touched an 1 3/4 spur? No. and this thing was getting ready to get cut up. I mean, if I don't show up, that mount isn't hanging downstairs.
Yes.
It's not happening.
It's not.
And what do you have then? You just.
Yeah. And it's me not being as well versed in turkey hunting as I am with the whitetail hunting world.
Kind of the position
knowing,
that I'm in too. Yeah.
Boone and Crockett is and a Pope and Young.
You will go.
I didn't know.
You will go a long time from this point on in your life, and maybe never kill a Pennsylvania Eastern with an 1 3/4 spurs again.
Yeah, that's
wow.
That I mean, to
Wow.
Todd,
I'm telling you. I mean, I've killed. Listen, Dan Young's going to take this the wrong way. Dan Young, he likes to talk about how many turkeys he's killed. I'm sure you've heard him say.
He takes after Phil.
So I don't do that. I mean, you could ask me, and someday I'll show you. I have a journal, but I don't talk about that number. But I've had my hands on quite a few, and me personally, the ones that have flopped around because of me have never had 1 3/4 spurs, and I've killed some big turkey. So you have something, and I saved that turkey. That turkey owes me something because he'd been. I don't know what it is, but he owes me something. For the rest of his whatever it is, he's going to be on that wall down there for people to look at.
And he's a beautiful mount.
Dennis Raza, yes, top shelf.
Fantastic mount.
I believe now that we're into this, I'm kind of thinking like some sort of plaque. We can laser engrave it under that bird. I would like to be a part. Like when they look at that, go, what's Rupert have to do with that?
Saved by Todd Rupert.
So like
I like it. I like everything.
Yeah.
My word, like we said downstairs before the podcast, I leave this earth before you do. That bird's going with you.
We made an agreement downstairs. I said,
I have to.
Chris, if you check out before me, when you and Amy are writing that down, will that out to me. I'd like to have that bird. He said, "I will, buddy," and that's okay. So Jens heard it. Jens are hearing it.
Right.
Yep.
It's your bird.
Proof's in the pudding now.
If Chris checks out before me, the long beard with the 1 3/4 spurs is possession of Todd Rupert.
We'll just add that to the plaque.
There you go. Yeah.
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 Then there's no question.
And if we didn't discuss the will thing, and we would have got the plaque saying about me saving him, it would have came to me anyways. They would have been like, "Oh, that plaque, we got to give this."
Yeah, gotta give it's it's just it's amazing to me.
Did we get sidetracked?
Yeah, we did.
It's okay.
We're gonna go back.
Unscripted.
We're gonna go back.
It's all right.
I felt like I was talking about Nashville and
Yeah.
elves.
We're gonna go
You
back
got to the necklace. We got to the necklace.
Yeah.
And then we started talking about Chris's spur.
All right.
What's just amazing
feel
to
like
me,
I
and
lost where we
one
were
last
at.
thing I got to say before we get back on track, is that to you, that 1 3/4 spurred bird hanging on that wall
Trophy.
is equally, if not more impressive than the 187-inch whitetail I have down there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. To me, that's what I see when I see that.
Right. So
And they're judged by, when you total that bird, it actually, I mean, you could have got it scored.
Right.
You know what I mean? And maybe, possibly, made the NWTF record book, which, whatever. I know a guy killed, I'm not mentioning names because we jack him about it enough. He actually used to frequent this shop when it was Aces years ago. But he killed a heavy turkey. Now, I didn't physically weigh it, but he took a picture of the scale. And he ate it. And then I showed him the record book of Pennsylvania's largest weighing turkey. Well, if that scale was true and he wasn't tugging on the other end, he would have been in the top 3. He de-breasted it and ate it. And then there's nothing there to prove you did it.
Yeah.
And to some people that doesn't mean a lot, and it's not about competition. And I don't want to say that I'm out to get a book in the record book, but if I shoot a hammer like that one you have hanging down there, I will let someone that knows what they're doing score it.
Yeah. Well, I think when we looked just quickly, the spurs on that one, I think, was tied for 4th in the state.
Oh, you did look.
I did.
You see?
Even more to get the plaque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
I'd be honored now.
At this point,
now.
at this point here, I might actually owe you money or something. I mean,
Well, we'll talk about that. I don't want to put you out there while other people can see this, but when it's just me and you, we'll talk money.
So, all right, let's get back on track. Now,
So,
now
if
he
I
wants to dig in my
remember
wallet.
correctly, it was about the collecting and how I got to this, right?
Yeah. So,
Nashville,
right back
Yeah.
to Nashville.
and I think we're right around the 50,000 thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in 2013 we did not go back, and then in 2014, Scott Kennedy, Dan Murphy, Shane Smith, and myself went. We added a buddy. We rented a vehicle again and went back to Nashville. And I do believe that was the year that the 50,000 attendance thing came into play. And when you just look around and see how people acting, I mean, everybody's turkey minded at that convention. I'm not saying everybody, just looking around the way, like I said, looking at call makers and this and that. And when we come home in 14, we were driving home and I said, I didn't realize how crazy people got for turkey. I needed to go down there to see it.
Right.
And the Gaylord, the way they do it, I mean, they got gobblers walking like in lights around it.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah, we got to see
It's you got to
Yeah.
see it.
Go.
You got to see it. The calling competitions, and that's crazy to me because they're on stage and it's the country's best callers, and when they get done with their set, you can't do anything. Like you want to start going, yeah, you can't do anything because the judges would hear somebody favoring that and they might add it to their score. Like so, when a
I
person
see.
gets done calling, and when they are calling, it sounds just like this. Ready?
Wow.
Nothing. There's a box of leaves on the stage. The audience who sits quietly and they tell you before it gets started, hey, no applause, no clapping, no booing, none of that. And they utilize that box of leaves, the stage, and I mean it's the real deal. This kind of stuff's all out front, big time, filming it. It's crazy. So the calling competition, all that, and you can't make any noise because it would affect the judge's decision.
Right.
And the judges are under a banner like that. It sticks out over the stage in the front, and they are underneath it.
So they
So
can't
the
see
caller,
reactions.
they can't see anything.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're just
They
listening.
can't. They are just listening. But they are down underneath kind of the stage with a black tarp over top of them, and they have a score sheet, and that's all they're doing down there. And that guy, he can come as close to them he wants or go as far away as he wants to do the depth thing. I mean, all the categories they do, and that's how they get a winner. But there's no noise. It's just totally silent, and it's kind of weird.
Never knew that. I've watched those calls.
The only person talking is the MC. Contestant number 1, and he tells them what to do. Fly down, cackle, excited, hen, yelp, this, all that. He does it, and when he's done, he gives them a nod. The caller, he nods at the guy, and that's that. Then there's nothing. Oh yeah, and it's packed. It's a packed house too, because it's the Nationals. I mean, whoever wins that is the king.
Wow.
So that's what got you into
the
the
I got
calls.
sidetracked again. I thought that was cool. I mean, there's so much to talk about. I could go on and on and on.
Hey, we got time.
I know.
Yeah.
So on the way home from that trip, and there's so much more to discuss to talk about down there. But coming home, it just hit me like I want more. I want more out of turkey hunting. What can I do? And whether I was driving or I was in the back or whatever rotation I was in, I was thinking, but I wasn't saying. I wanted that inspired me. Like the people, that's just crazy to see how they're acting over this turkey hunt, the sport of turkey hunt, and to see them with. It was amazing. All the big names you watch on TV are there. Mm-hmm. I mean, Toxie Hoss, Mossy Oak, there he was, shook his hand. I mean, just that kind of stuff, and people lined up to meet Michael Waddell. And so, how that started was I was at Gander Mountain when Gander Mountain was in business. And I stopped in there one day, and a kid seen a NWTF decal on the back of my truck. And he asked me, he didn't know me, I didn't know him, and he was younger than me, and he said, "Did you ever been to the convention, the national convention?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Hey, put it on your bucket list." He said, "You're going to meet people down there that you see on TV. In fact, you're going to be sitting at bars, and they're going to be sitting beside you drinking." I'm thinking, okay, buddy, like, who you think you're, well, the first night there, the first year, me, Scott, and Murph, we're sitting at this Irish pub in Gaylord Opryland. Beers were $8 of draft. $8 in Gaylord Opryland.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're in
you
Nashville.
go, across the street they were PA prices, but in Gaylord, $8. Fish sandwich, $24.95. That ain't bad, huh?
That's cheap.
So there we are, and I wasn't thinking about the kid at Gander Mountain, but I turn around, and there's Michael Waddell walking into this bar. Now, it was before the show even started, and we had went a day early, and he walks in, and he's got a guy with him, and I didn't know that guy at the time, and he got behind this big pole. I go, "Hey, Murph." Murph loves Waddy. I said, "There's Waddell behind that pole." You get one. I mean, yeah, right. Like, okay. I said, "Oh yeah." Well, I had a backpack with me with a blank call in it and a Sharpie for when this happened to get autographs. I mean, who doesn't like watching them guys on TV? And
right.
So I go around that pole, and there he was, and I introduced myself, and I hand him a turkey call, and so we assigned. He said, "What's this?" Like being funny, and he writes on the paddle, "Bust him, Michael Waddell." And I bring that box call around that pole to Murph, and I said, "He ain't over there, buddy." And I show him that call, And Murph's got to. I said, "He's over there," and I asked him to come over when he's done doing what he's doing. Well, these big shots from Chevy roll in. That's what he was doing, and he came over. It was me, Murph, and Scott sitting at that bar, and he talked to us for every bit of 20 minutes to a half hour, like we are talking right now. And his pants are put on the exact same way the three of ours are, and it made the trip. And the trip was so much more, but it was meant to be from that guy in Gander Mountain parking lot telling me that.
To make
and then the first guy I see, not that you're putting in any category, the Drurys, Toxie Hoss, Michael freaking Waddell.
Right. And that's, honestly, that's the way the industry is as a whole. I've been to the ATA show quite a few times.
And that's
you and I both
have
you and I both have personal friends that are in the industry at a higher level. And you're right. They do not act any different than we do.
Mm-mm.
You know, that's the one thing I really enjoy about the outdoor industry is people are just genuine. You know, you're always going to have those here or there that
You
might
are.
not be. You know,
You
that's
are.
that's in anything. But in this case, you could pretty much go up just about any person in this industry, any male, any female, and ask them for their opinion or talk to them about something that you're passionate about, whether it's turkey calls or whitetail hunting or elk hunting or a certain gun you like or whatever. And they're going to talk to you.
Oh yeah.
You know, they will. I mean,
And they get that a lot.
You know, when I went to Harrisburg, Mike Egros and I was sitting there talking with Barry Wenzel, and Barry's one of the, I mean, he's a legend when it comes to traditional hunting and that. You know, him and his brother have done a lot. And we sat there and talked, and like I've known him.
Yes.
Another one,
They make you feel
Eddie
a certain
Salter.
way, yeah.
I mean, Eddie Salter's another one. You know, but there's a lot of those guys. You could talk forever about that, but I'm glad you brought up about taking that turkey call and getting that sign, because I know you had another story, and I wanted to touch on, and it also I think involved the show there in Nashville. Didn't you have a call that you ended up with, and you were taking it, you were going to get it signed, and a guy that you handed it to was like, wait a minute. Talk about
That's
that.
a good memory.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Talk about that.
This is a great story. And I it could go on, and I'm not going to let it, but 2014, we split knowing how crowded it was. I went with my buddy that it went for the first time, Shane, and Scott and Murph went this way, and we went that way. Now, you have to think how this played out, because it's kind of crazy, really. But in my backpack, I had a call, and before I left, I took one that had nothing on it. No laser engraving, no writing. The walls, the rails were flat for signing purposes. You know, with that on there, that takes up space. I wanted a blank turkey call. So I remembered under one of the gobbler I have mounted, in that case, I had a blank turkey call in there. And before I left, I got it out of there, and I put it in that backpack. And plain Jane, nothing fancy about it.
No names,
nothing. It was old, and I knew where I got it, and I knew what I paid for it. So I have that call in there, and we separate at the gate. The gate's just open, and we're walking in, and my buddy Shane goes, "Hey, Roop, there's Tom Stuckey." Now, I know you would not know who that is. Chris, you may or may not know who that is.
I've heard the name.
But when I was a kid, Tom Stuckey was on my VHS tapes, meaning that's who I watched turkey hunt.
Right.
And as soon as he said Tom Stuckey, I saw that. I believe he was in the hunter specialty booth that particular moment. I walked right up to him. I mean, the gates just opened. So, and we were early. So there's a pile of people coming through those gates. And my buddy says, "There's Tom Stuckey." So I go right up to him, introduce myself, and I told him I was a big fan. I'd been watching him since I was a young boy. I said, "Will you sign my call?" And there ain't no one down there that if you ask to sign your call, they're not gonna.
Right.
Whether they made that call or not, if you got a turkey call and a marker, they're signing it. It means something to them too. So I pull that turkey call out, and I grabbed the Sharpie, and I said, "I'd like to get a picture with you too." And he says, "Sure, buddy, no problem." And I go like this, and he doesn't take this, he takes this. And he grabs it and he looks at me. He says, "Son, where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from PA." He went like this. He went, "You know what you got here?" I go, "Well, Mr. Stuckey, I've been a collector for a long time, and I normally put a piece of paper rolled up or something in the call so I know where I got it from or know something about it. And I have collector's guides that let me know things about calls that are like this with nothing on them that you may need to see a picture to know where it came from." I said, "But that particular call, I don't know." He goes, "Well, did you know that I used to work in Delmont, Pennsylvania, back in the day for Penn's Woods?" And I said, "I do believe I do. I knew that." He goes, "Well, I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty certain that is let me think of his name, prototype. Roger Latham prototype." Now, Roger Latham was the original owner of Penn's Woods, I do believe, and he ended up selling it to Frank Piper. Roger Latham has been dead and gone, but that was a prototype to one of Penn's Woods calls that they sold thousands of, but there was nothing on it. It was the call that he had designed to hand over to someone to say, there you go. If you like it,
Make it.
right.
Wow.
Well, I had it.
Wow.
And I didn't know I had it. So he says to me, hey, listen, I'll sign that if you want. But if I were you, I would not have anybody sign it. I would just put it away and get another call, and I'll be glad to sign it. So I walked right across the hall to the Quaker Boy booth and got a Road Warrior, it's called, and I'm not kidding you. It's this long. I think you've seen it.
Yeah, I did.
It's in that table, and it'll run. It's that long.
I think you could call a turkey in from another state with
it's
it.
this long. And it's called the Road Warrior, and I bought it. I believe it was like $60 or $65, and I walked right back over, and he signed it right on the paddle, and I thanked him. Later that day, they come over the PA, and you could hear it real good, and they say, vintage call appraisal in the Winchester room by Mr. George Denka. It don't even hit me yet. Shane's like, hey, you got that call? Said they're appraising calls. Well, let's take it up then. I'm like, all right. So we go up to the room, and I'm like 3 deep, and I get to the line, to the thing, and I introduce myself to George Denka, who writes collector's books about all turkey calls. He contacts people all over the country and gets information about turkey calls, and he writes a book and pictures of them, and they're that thick, and he does one every 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And there's another story to that too about me. So yeah. So George Denka, I get to George Denka, and I start telling him the exact story I told you, and I'm taking the call out, and he's got this kind of going left to right with his head, like, you ain't got no Roger Latham prototype. I pull it out, and he vapor locks, like, he grabbed it, he's looking, and he's like, that screw, that eyelet, that's it. Where'd you get this? And I tell him. He's like, do you want it appraised? And I'm like, yeah, appraised.
Mm-hmm.
So they got the white, pink, and yellow appraisal sheet. One goes to the owner of the call, one goes to the NWTF, and one goes to him. And in like tomorrow, somebody's looking for a Roger Latham prototype, they can call the NWTF, and they have that on file to say Todd Rupert has one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Well,
That's
we ended up
cool.
finding a crack in the call, which I couldn't see with the naked eye, because when they appraise it, he has that light box, sticks it in there, and he got that magnifying glass. I don't have the appraisal right here with me, and I don't want to play it down, but I want to say it was about $900.
Wow.
And I paid $10 for it at a yard sale, and that was with the crack.
So,
And then he asked me if he could take pictures of that and put it in the book. So I don't know. I've gotten the books. The last one it wasn't in, but I don't know what he meant by that.
right. So one signature on that changes everything.
One signature takes it back to probably whatever somebody would want to pay, but not $900.
Yeah. That's crazy to
Yeah.
think that.
Now, if Roger Latham's signature might have been on it, it might have been worth $2,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know,
Sure.
but that's how that went. I'm glad you remembered that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I remember you telling me about that, and that was an awesome story.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It really was. So he gave me the appraisal paper, and the rest is kind of history, and I still have it. It's in the gun safe.
That's awesome.
But those calls, if you get into that collector's book and start looking through it, I mean, I'd show you anytime you wanted. There's calls in there for $10,000.
Jeez.
They're a piece. They're this, but it's who made it, where they come from, who had it, who signed it, who didn't sign it. I mean, Neil Kost's lineup of some of his calls, he only made like 3, and like a name, the Fat Lady Sings or something. I believe that's one of the names.
Yeah,
$17,000, and they put like a high price, a low price, a mid grade, the condition, and they break it all down.
Yeah,
it's pretty neat. So if you ever come across a turkey, the one I tell everybody, they always say, I got Lynch, I use Lynch, and that's great. But if it was your grandpap's Lynch and it says Birmingham, Alabama on it, put it away and get another Lynch.
yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Because those Birmingham, Alabamas, were first. The factory in Birmingham was number one, and that was Lynch. And then it went to Mississippi, and now it's in Georgia. So the Mississippi ones are valuable, but not as valuable as the Alabamas. They've been to 3 manufacturers over the years.
A lot of history there.
A lot of history there.
Yeah.
I'm just like blown away. Like it's like a baseball card
would
collector.
Not, correct. You would not know that until.
Holy cow.
And you're having the reaction that when I tell most people that, or they're at my shop, and I go, hey, look at this. And I'll pull that catalog out and say, look up Neil Cost or some of the early Lynches.
Yeah.
And they're going, they'll say it, does that say $15,000? I'll go, keep looking. And you'll see big numbers like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never realized until by that time I come to your house and saw all those calls there that collecting calls was a thing.
Yeah. And if you're in it to hold on to them and say, I have this, or you're in it to have them and trade. In other words, if you had your hands on an Alabama from Birmingham and the price was up and that you were getting $1,200 for one, well, you go into this collector's, there's things on Facebook and that, and
Right.
Mm-hmm.
you're looking to see somebody that wants that may have 2 Dick Kirby's for trade. And you'll throw them a Birmingham, Alabama for 2 Dick Kirby's.
Right.
From Quaker Boy. It's that goes on.
Could be endless,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, it is like baseball cards.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So now coming back from Nashville.
Here we go.
We're
We
back
got
to
sidetracked.
Nashville.
It's a
So I come back from Nashville, and at one point in that trip, after I'd done all that thinking, I said to them, and they'll attest to it. I said, hey, I'm thinking about maybe dabbling into this turkey calls, and that was in 14 early. And when I came home, I'd been at my buddy's wood shop. We were cutting pots with a saw, the round saw blade. I mean, just all kind of stuff. And I'm going to admit this, but at that time I was using, I want to think if I want to say this right. I was using a call by a man named David Holleran, who I respect. All my calls in my vest were David Holleran's. And I had one of his calls. And David, if you ever watch this podcast, I'm sorry. But I had to know. And I'm thinking, if I want to do this right, I got to know what's in there. So I took a $90 pot call. I didn't do that. No, Ken, I didn't do that. I took a $90 pot call and I put it in a sock. And I put it on my workbench, and I took a nail punch and I broke the calling surface out. And I wanted to see what was in there. And by doing that, you still can't really copy.
Right.
Okay? Because I don't know what woods they were or anything like that. I just wanted to see what was in there. And what I learned through this all is if you go to a store, no matter where it's at, Walmart to Dick's to Cabela's to Bass Pro Shops, and you see a turkey pot call on a shelf, they all look the same. Can you disagree with that? Whether it be the color, the wood, or the camouflage, or whatever's on it, they're all about that size,
mm-hmm.
and they kind of all look the same. And if you flip one, they've got 6 holes, 7 holes, 8 holes. I've seen them with 9 holes. I've seen them with 3 holes. But when you look at a turkey call pot on a shelf, whether it's sitting there in a clamshell, they all look like that.
Right. Depending
on if that's glass or aluminum or crystal or what have you, they all kind of look the same. So what I need to obviously explaining to you is it's what's inside that makes what me as a maker wants to hear, and that's the guts. And none of the guts are really the same because I didn't do what David Holleran did. His guts were totally different, and I used different woods and the spacing of that rail, the height between the bottom of your calling surface to the bottom of your pot to the top of your pedestal, all that in there is your recipe to make turkey language out of that pot call. So if you grab 3 off the shelf and play them, none of them are going to sound the same. If they do, it could happen, but they're all different inside, even though they look the same on the outside.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That all that would matter as far as
Wow.
the thickness of that rim around there, how deep that slate or that glass or crystal setting down in.
Yes, and that's one of the things that, I mean, as a call maker, there's a lot of call makers. There are a lot. but everyone's going to be different because their guts are different. And I didn't, I wanted to see, I didn't even know what to do. So when I broke that apart, I needed to see how that was done. I could have probably Googled it, but David Holleran is top shelf. His calls they rank. And I took a look in there. And nothing inside is the same as his, because if you run his calls and you run mine, they don't sound anything alike. So there's my out. But it's all about spacing, what you do to your surfaces, the conditioning, all that. So back to where we were. I started, and it was ugly. I'm going to tell you, and a lot of people don't know that. I don't think anybody thinks that I went like this and these appeared. But I don't know that a lot of people know what I went through to get to this. And there was a white towel, and I threw it in. I'm pretty sure I stick with the number 4 times that I said I'm done. That I could not make this, no matter what I did, sound like a turkey. And that was after busting that call. Right. Okay. So I did that, and one day I got a slate call to have a little rasp in it. And that, I picked the towel up, and the rasp, I'm thinking rasp. And I had a buddy over. I'm like, listen to this. He's like, yeah, you're getting it. And I wasn't close, but there's no way. If somebody could just put a call together in a year and make it sound like a good turkey, it's an achievement, because it didn't. It took me a lot longer. And, when I got it, I remember the day I hit it, and it was on a slate call. And then after that, kind of everything fell into place with the calling surfaces and the guts to the call. The woods I use,
that was going to be a question: is the woods, does the wood species have an effect into it?
My glass, I don't even know if I brought any. My glass are only in sappy walnut.
Okay.
My crystal are only in cherry. Now, I had built them in all, and I could have sold them, but I didn't like it.
Yeah.
So, wood specific, glass in sappy walnut, crystal in cherry, and then all my other calling surfaces are universal, meaning I will build them in sappy walnut and cherry. But other than glass and crystal, they're wood specific. Everything else, I give buyers an option to cosmetically look at the call and see if they like cherry or sappy walnut. Yeah.
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 That's interesting.
The woods, the woods and the strikers. I mean, there's so much to it that I didn't know my brain could hold all the what's involved with that wood making that sound like that. And if you take this wood away and run this one, it doesn't sound like that one. What? But you're naturally able to show people that the woods make a difference on that call.
Right.
So
you started with the pot calls then.
I started with the pots.
When did the box calls come into play?
Year-wise and time-wise, buddy, I can't answer that. Even if I sat and thought about that long and hard, I don't know. I want to say probably a year. Because I was just going to be a pot call guy and be done with it. And then I started dabbling in the boxes and getting good feedback, and that's how that went. And that's what I was going to stay at. And then I have this friend named Dan Murphy, who you know.
Yes.
And
can't miss him.
No, he's a big man. Murph has supported this from day one. He was in Nashville. So he got to see why I got the way I did into doing this. And he's always wanted to be a part of it, and he is. And he told me, hey, and he's been with me to shows and everything, you need, I don't know how he worded it, mouth calls. And I'm like, well, no. And I got the, what do you mean?
No.
I go, there's no time.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm still working 40 hours a week, and I'm still making turkey calls. I said, Murph, no, just no. You've got to respect that. I would like to have all kind of stuff, It's my business. I don't have time to do it. And if I do it, I want to do it right. So no.
Right.
So I told Murph, do you want to do it? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. Well, here's the deal. I'll supply you what you get. I'll help you out. Buying this, that, whatever you want to get, the presses, the stretcher, that kind of stuff, the materials. I'll give you 2 years. And that time, if it's before that, that's fine. But in 2 years, if it's not, we'll just shut it down. But inside that time, when you get finished mouth calls, I want you to hand them out. You just give them away. You can't charge something. Just give them away. No clamshell, no, just here in a Ziploc. And I'm going to ask those people running those mouth calls, because I'm not a great mouth. I use them, but this is my baby.
Right.
So for me to promote mouth calls, I like to be good at what I'm doing. I'm not going to promote something that I can't do. I can kill turkeys with a mouth call, but I can't stage call with a mouth call or sell it. So I said, Murph, you got to run them and hand them out. And I'm going to see what people say, and I will get the feedback. Not that you wouldn't tell me what somebody said, but when I get somebody in a closed door, and I'm going to say, hey, look, are they good? Or don't BS me.
Yeah, because you're putting your name to it.
Right, absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
And the feedback came in. Hey, those are easy to run. Those are nice mouth calls, so on and so forth. I told Murph, anytime I got told, I told him, which was a confidence builder. And I believe he's up to 7 cuts now.
Wow.
Rupert's Roost in Peace name is on it. I don't Murph makes them for me, and that's his baby, a part of the business, and I appreciate it. And he's making turkey totes now, which I'll have at Chico.
Oh, cool.
The paracord.
Yeah.
Mm.
He weaves them. We're going to have fluorescent orange and black, the lime green and black, lime green and green. Putting a leather logo on it, the Roost in Peace logo.
Yeah, we saw you got all new hats and gear, so you have
Yeah,
one on.
Yeah, those look great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
That's another story in itself. But yeah, Murph's been a big help. My buddy Scott Kennedy, he went to Nashville. Shane Smith went to Nashville. Those guys, those three guys, they've been there, they were there to see it happen. Murph's stuck, he's really involved in the business, and I appreciate that, and he knows that.
Yeah, he's a super good dude.
He's
as much as I know of him,
yes.
He's a big dude, but he's so nice. I wouldn't want to piss him off.
Speaking of big dudes, did you see the Iowa Deer Classic pictures of me beside Tim Sylvia?
I did.
He could have killed me.
Yeah.
I've met him.
Well, I did.
He's a big guy.
You heard the story. Did you know about the bruise?
No.
Okay, Tim Sylvia, Freddie Manch. You know Freddie?
Yes. Yeah, Freddie comes down here.
Freddie is also starting to get hands-on. He worked a booth out in Iowa. Thank you, Freddie. Freddie got ideas, and he has I can see it. He's headed in the right direction. So, Freddie was a very good wrestler. Very, very good wrestler. And he's a big boy also.
He is.
Yeah, don't tangle with him neither. He'd wrap you up. Me too. He'd wrap me up.
I'm starting to think that you're just getting these guys as bodyguards as you keep growing.
I'll go with that. We can go with that.
You're getting some big guys around you.
So Freddie sees Tim Sylvia coming down the aisle, and he's like, "Bro, that's Tim Sylvia, that's UFC heavyweight champion of the world." And I'm looking, and he's down the thing, and he's a gigantic specimen of a man.
That he is.
6'9". I don't know his weight, but it's not under 350.
Yeah.
And he's gigantic. Well, he comes over, and Larry was out there, and Larry ended up talking to him. So I go out and I introduce myself, and I said, "Hey, my buddy over there is a big-time wrestler. He wants to meet you, get some pictures, this and that." Real cool.
Yeah.
So I said, "You want to?" He goes, "Let's get a picture at the booth." And I thought, well, that's even better. So we go walking over, and I go, "Well, let's get behind the booth." And he goes, "No, we'll take it right here." Now, you know me. I say to the UFC heavyweight champion of the world, 6'9", Hey, Sylvia, don't piss me off. He takes his hands and puts them behind my bicep and touches his fingers and goes,
no.
or what? I go, well, we'll just take that picture right here. My arm, I have a picture of it, bruised. It was like this on my bicep. And all he did was squeeze his fingers. Super nice guy, but a great story.
That is hilarious.
But if you see the pictures, I mean, I'm 6 between 2 and 3. Freddie and Murph, it looks like he could have hit them like 2 cymbals. Did you see that picture?
I did.
That's a big man.
Absolutely.
Okay, where were we? Sidetrack.
Oh,
That's
this
okay.
is
If I'm
great.
talking too much,
No,
somebody else.
absolutely.
No. Yep.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
This is what
You
we
asked
want
me
to
for
do.
this.
I absolutely did. This is what we want to talk
How much
about.
time
So,
has went by?
We literally just hit an hour.
we're just getting started.
Wow.
We're just getting started.
Okay,
Mhm.
where we?
We
at
got
now?
extra batteries for a reason.
Okay. All right, Ken, all right.
I mean, hey,
Stopped
if
on
we
the
got to
way.
sit here all night and make us a 2-parter, I mean,
all
we'll
right.
do what we got to do.
Okay,
So,
I like how you think. Okay,
where's
so the box calls you ask about timing,
right?
and I don't know for sure, but they ended up being a hit. I haven't went crazy with that. I've got 4 different styles, and I kind of wanted to do it that way because I come out with a new one for this year, and I'll explain that also. But the Purple Heart Walnut, if you remember correctly, I had 1-piece calls too. You still may have some
I do.
downstairs.
Yes.
I stopped with those for a while for no particular reason. I just was sticking to the 5-piece. Maybe I'll bring those back. Maybe I'll bring the 1-sider back. But I'm kind of trying to keep a variation of calls moving. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the ones that were moving the most is what I'm sticking with. Those 1-piece box calls are phenomenal, but I was selling more of the 5-piece. So
Yeah. So you go with
who
what
does?
works.
Yeah, right.
So when you started, you knew when you started making the calls. What was the time frame between when you finally said, okay, this is the call, this works, this pot call, I'm happy with this sound? How many years later was it before you started selling calls?
Well, on the logo, underneath the tombstone, there's an established date there of 2016. That was late. And I picked an established date to when I accepted money.
Okay.
That's a
turkey
good.
call.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Because I didn't say 2014 because there were times between 2014 and the end of 2016, almost 17, where I had quit.
Yeah.
So it don't count. So when and the guy, he's a friend of mine. Thank you, Jack Perry. He came over and we're sitting around. He's like, I want to buy one. I wanted to give him one, but he's like, no, I want to buy one. Well, there was a reason behind it. He wanted that dollar in the shop, and it is there.
Right.
It is still there. I took his first American dollar, and I framed it. And he bought that call, and I established 2016, and that's where that started. The established date.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
And, it's the stuff that's happened since that established date. There's days I got to pinch my leg and say, is this really happening? And you know what that is, and we're probably going to get to that.
Yeah, we're going to get into all that. So one thing I want to get into now is you're not only passionate about the calls that you've made, but you're very passionate about making sure that no one calls them Rupert's turkey calls.
What hour are we in?
Hour and 4 minutes.
Hour and 4 minutes. This could really shut this down. we could take
I
this
got a
to the
bunch of batteries
close.
in the bag.
Okay, I'm not going to do that, but Chris, thank you for bringing that up. And once again, when this airs, there are people that don't know.
Right. And
Absolutely.
that's the thing. Is,
They
like
don't
I
know.
said with every one of our podcasts, I feel that there's a need to know about the product, know about the person, know about the history. So I know that these calls are not just Rupert's turkey calls.
Okay.
It is adamant. You have been adamant.
It is
here.
The day I was
Rupert's
crying down there.
Roost in peace turkey calls.
Yes.
That's what it is.
I am
There's a
going
reason
to
for that. And I'd
Dan
like
Young,
to
eat your
explain
heart out. Dan Young, eat your heart out. Because he loves that. He still jacks me about it on the air.
Yeah.
You know, ask him why Rupert's turkey calls is Rupert's Roost in Peace turkey calls. Well, I'll tell you. In amidst of all of this, there had to be a name. And I wanted a fictitious name. So I don't know the time frame, but it was a long time. That size notepad, either in my truck at home or in my work car. And some days there was one name on it. I'd pull my pen out. I'd come up with a name. I'd just be driving and go, there you go.
Yeah.
Write it down.
Yeah.
There were days that there was one name. There were days that there were 20. Some of them were really dumb, but I wrote them down to come home and see if there was a hit, because I will not copy. I didn't want any part of my name being something else.
Right.
And I had some good ones, and there were some discouraging days of Googling a name and seeing a hit and going, well, I mean, when that happens, you just shut her down and you move on.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, we'll just say 75 names that I thought I could have run with, that there was a part of the name that I picked that was already there. So I had enough, and no one can take Rupert away from me, because that's my last name.
Right.
So Rupert's Turkey Calls, it was. Done. Official. Well, that's not true. I don't know what the time frame was, but I had now found a laser engraver who was putting, do you have one? The Rupert's Turkey Calls.
I don't think I do.
I bet you the ones from the first show are. I bet you that feather or something. Because I was not Roost in Peace here at the open house when
I did
calls.
the first
There's no way.
Right. So then, yeah,
They're
I
worth $17,000. I looked in the collector's guide. The old, just the plain.
I'm looking. I got it.
So that is a joke.
He's gonna
That is a
find
joke.
it now.
So,
no, but I will say I don't have a turkey call in my vest or pack that is not one of yours.
that means a lot.
So I'm gonna have to look and see what I got.
You have one in there that says Rupert's Turkey Calls, guaranteed. Because at the open house I didn't have the Roost in Peace.
Right.
Yeah. So I picked Rupert's Turkey Calls. My tattoo was my logo on the back of the pot. So I had made, we'll throw another number out there. None of these numbers are accurate because I don't know.
Right.
So let's say 150. Rupert's Turkey Calls. I'm in my shop, phone rings, buddy of mine. Hey, Rupe, you sitting down? I'm like, yeah. He's like, no, are you sitting down? I'm like, yeah. What?
Spit it out.
And I was foot on the throttle, Rupert's Turkey Calls. And I felt like I had done something. So think about all the time involved with the building, then the name, and then a go. I had started to get over the waves and start to smooth out a little bit. Tidal wave. Hey, buddy, there's another Rupert's Turkey Calls in Ohio.
Jeez.
I go, what? He goes, I told you to sit down. I go, are you kidding me? He's like, no, Rupert's Turkey Calls. Look it up. So I did. Rupert's Turkey Calls. Cross, spur necklace, feather above the cross, beautiful logo. Ken Rupert Jr., thank you for being cool through all this. I'm going to contact you and tell you to watch this podcast afterwards. Ken Rupert Jr. is his name. He ended up contacting me. It was funny because he sent me a message, not a phone call first. And the message says, I think we have a problem. So sometimes you don't know how to interpret a message. And
Yeah, right. It's not like you're sitting
I
there
look
talking.
at that and
yeah.
I'm thinking, oh, we got a problem. All right. That, and I didn't know how to take it. And he's a super nice guy. So I see that and I'm like, well, uh-oh, we got a problem. Phone numbers exchanged. I'm sitting in the recliner. I call him and we BS about everything. And I said, look, your last name, my last name, you have a passionate turkey. And he makes a very good turkey call, by the way. Rupert's Turkey Calls. Very good conversation. He's invited me hunting since. And I said to him, I don't remember what order this happened, but I let him know that I was in search of a name because he was making turkey calls longer than me. And Not that I couldn't have kept the name, but if 2 Rupert's turkey calls make a decent product and they're looking for Rupert's turkey calls and they were wanting to buy mine, but they went to him, that was going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I avoided that, and I was sitting in a deer stand. Once again, I don't know the time frame of it. I'm sitting in a deer stand up on the hill from the house, and I started thinking about this name, which I had been doing every day. But in a deer stand, you can really let it go.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I love about him.
So I'm starting to think like the tombstone, spooky, cemetery. I don't know why, but I was. And I was alone. And I can get very in detail about this. I was chewing snuff at the time, which I've quit, and I haven't been chewing in a while. But I got windows in it. Rocco's been up in his Hilton, up where he calls it, or whatever he calls it. I open the window, I'm spitting chew up, but I'm thinking about this name. And I'm thinking this font, spooky font, and I don't know how, I don't know, but it happened. This happened. I started saying, rest in peace. Rest in a person. Rest in peace. A person. Yeah, person. Rest in peace. And this is how I'm talking to myself in that deer stand. Rest in peace. Rest in peace. Well, if a person eternally sleeps when they pass away, they rest in peace. And people say that at the cemetery or the viewing or whatever. Hey, rest in peace. And it just hit me that a turkey obviously sleeps on a limb, and it's called Roost. And I'm saying this. Maybe not in those verbatim. And I go, wait a minute. If a person sleeps eternally and a turkey that roost in peace, the hunt was over. And my name being
There's
Rupert.
probably a 180 out in front of you, and it didn't matter.
Yeah, right. The name being Rupert and the roost, the Perna's roost in peace turkey calls. It don't bang.
I was going to say
Right.
it flows well.
It flows.
Like,
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Megan. It flows. So Rupert's roost in peace turkey calls. I'm like, it's over. It was within a few days. I'm at my buddy's shop, Fiji Signs. My buddy Rob. We sat down and we started working on a layout of things. And I'm like, tombstone. Put a tombstone. He put a tombstone. Went through the fonts. That font. And it just come together. And that's what you see now on everything.
Mm-hmm.
That is why. And when people say Rupert's turkey calls and they think, boy, I'm really not. I just don't want to. I'm basically respecting Ken Rupert Jr. in Rupert's turkey calls by saying, say mine.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's
you're just separating you from
That's
him.
it. And if people come to my booth or they call me and say Rupert's turkey calls, I don't correct them. I correct the people that need to be corrected, like you.
Like me.
You're selling.
Right.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah,
I don't tell that
absolutely.
to every single person I encounter that says Rupert's turkey calls. I do not. I want to make that perfectly clear. I don't. But the people that I need to tell or want to tell, I tell them. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to tell you how that actually happened, because that is how.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
He basically what Rupert's turkey call, where they're both, and he's only in Ohio. So I went out and it just hit me.
Yeah.
And when I came home, I'm Googling Roost in Peace Turkey. And all those other names, 75, there was a catch somewhere.
right.
It was meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
It was meant to be.
Yeah, you just know once you find that.
It was meant to be.
Yeah.
So I locked it in with the state. It's, my taxes, all that. It's Rupert's Roost in Peace turkey calls. And if people say Rupert's turkey calls, if they say Roost in Peace, if they say, I don't care. People think it's all fun to me now.
Right.
Because it's out there. It's made it.
Right.
That's all.
So with the calls then, do you have any idea how many you think you've made?
No. And I can say that honestly because it's gotten a little out of hand. At one time, I had a list. Your name was on it. I'm pretty anal about things like that. I had a list, and I had my buddies' names because that's where it started with my friends. I had that list, and beside it, glass, walnut, crystal, cherry, slate, sappy walnut. Some guys had 4 calls. Some guys had 1. And I had a list, and it was underneath my calendar on my desk. And every once in a while, I'd pull it out and look at that. Be like, wow, I sold 150 calls. Well, they're in states, here's where I didn't want to get into. Like, I'm not tooting my horn or not being egotistic. I'm selling them all over the country.
And that's cool.
That's the pinch
great.
in the leg. I mean,
Right.
it's really happening. And that down here with Steve, when Keystone Wild Outdoors and you and Steve Rocco and the Keystone Experience, Robin, I cried downstairs on the range.
Yeah.
And that was in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even know what I was doing, but I was so honored just to be you. I looked up to you guys, and I still do, but I really did. Like, I'm just making turkey calls, man. Where's this going to go? And then you with the promoting, with the putting them in a store, and Rocco calling me, wanting to be a partner with the Keystone Experience, and we're going to go further yet. But at that point, I'm like, man, this is really happening. Well,
yeah. I mean, now it's taken off. I mean, from that, I mean, you've gone above and beyond that with getting involved with some of the other guys now with Dan Young and Larry McCoy and Respect the Game TV, and
that's another one. That's huge to me.
Yeah,
that story in itself.
Yeah, the passion behind what you do just shows when other people believe enough in what you do to say, yeah, we want you to be part of this.
Oh, that makes me feel good.
Yeah, as it should, as it absolutely
should.
That
makes me feel really good.
Yeah, absolutely. That it definitely should. So
next,
yeah, I mean,
next question.
I was gonna ask about the box calls.
Okay.
Obviously, no, you were talking with the slate calls. The depth and everything is what changes. Is it to go the same with the box calls then too?
The woods,
the length,
the woods make a difference.
The depth and everything,
and the rails, the width of the rails, the pitch of the rails, the angle of the rails.
Mm-hmm.
You could get into all that so deep, and you could have a list, and it's like your recipe of what you want the thickness of that rail to be.
Wow.
The wood you want that end block to be, and just being on a box call, Ken. That when I say 5-piece, we'll just do like a little show and tell.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's why we got these cameras.
I don't even need to run them at this point because we're going to have class here in a little bit. From what I've been told, we're going to have class.
Yes, right. We are.
And the reason I keep going in and out of this to whoever, Dan Young, when I was doing the Iowa Deer Classic, I got this lecture before I started. He put his fingers like this. And so I'm talking like this, and there's people on Facebook Live, and they're watching it go loud and clear, Roop, loud and clear, and Dan Young's going, closer to the mic, closer. So I'm like this. He's like, pick it up. So that's why I keep doing it. He ruined me.
No,
can you hear me fine?
I can hear you fine, and I'm working with adjustments. You're giving me
Eat your heart out, Dan Young.
You're giving me some good practice here.
Dan just needs practice at what he's doing.
This is giving me good practice.
That podcast doing this, and that's why I'm doing it. So we call that a 5-piece. Okay. You do not count the paddle. The paddle does not count.
Okay, I was sitting here counting. Like,
yes, that does not count. So 5-piece, without counting the paddle, is 1 rail, 2 rails. The end block's 3. That end block's 4, and the base is 5.
Okay.
5-piece box.
Okay.
Now, Chris has downstairs a 1-piece, and that is just milled out of a solid piece of wood.
Makes sense.
And the rails are thinner. It's a little high pitched, but I was moving more of these, so I stuck with them, and that's why I'm with the 5-piece.
Right. That rosewood there, I love that color.
Purple Heart.
Or I'm sorry, the Purple Heart.
You didn't. Rosewood Striker.
Right, the Purple Heart.
Hey.
I'm looking at that red color.
My good friend Michael Waller, who's been with me from the beginning, calls this Rosebud.
Right.
We were going to make a joke out. Yeah, we were at a show one time, and he's like, where's that Rosebud Striker? And me and Murph were like, what did he just say? Rosebud. Thank you, Michael Waller, for everything you do.
That striker there is actually pretty cool, and kind of leads me to a question of maybe you've thought about this or maybe you've tried it or not. You ever done one where do they call that top the handle part of that striker?
No. I mean, yes, it can be, yes.
Okay.
The head.
You ever made or thought of one doing an antler at the top?
I
know it's a turkey call.
No, that doesn't matter because Murph's putting deer antlers on some of the totes, like where you hold it.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's going to cut antlers. So no, that's not a question. The problem with that.
Okay.
This is going to be trivia.
Okay.
Because you have a headset on, that means you heard everything I was saying. Why would putting an antler on Chris knows the answer to this. If you were listening. Why would an antler being put on the barrel of this striker be an issue?
change the sound completely.
Well, it would, but didn't I tell you I did something to each one of them strikers?
You change the weight.
You wait.
That's right. That's why I
That's
keep
why
her.
she's going to school.
That's why.
She needs something else.
That's why I keep her around.
No, I'm being. There are people that do a lot of crazy things with strikers.
Yeah.
And yes, you could do that, and
Uh-huh.
yes, people have done that.
Uh-huh.
The Morels.
Yeah.
I have a Morel striker that I do not make.
Mhm.
Put it together, but I do not make. It's hand carved from a guy from Illinois. I can only get them. I think the most I've ever gotten was like 10 at one time.
Mhm.
I sell them and I don't keep them. When I get them, they go. They are very, you can't, the density of that bone, elk, moose, whitetail base, it is what it is. So when you carve that morel out of that, how do you know what it's going to weigh? So I have morel strikers that if I put to a pot sound like either that's broke or that striker's broke.
Okay.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's yeah.
But people that usually buy that morel striker are putting it in one of my display stands and putting it over a feather pot or a
Yeah.
morel pot, and they're never using it. I would say if I sold 100 morel strikers, 5 of them are being hunted.
Yeah.
And,
Cool.
and even some of the ones that are in the display really ran the pot well, but they just said, I'm buying that to display. It's beautiful.
Right.
So that's that. And those morels are out at, like I said, moose, elk, muleys, heavy base,
Yeah.
and they're amazing.
Wow.
You've not seen them?
The Morels?
Yes.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yeah, at your booth.
I'll have them.
I've seen
I should
Yeah,
have some at
they're-
Chico.
Okay.
I mean, they are beautiful.
They are.
Mhm.
Okay, where were we? We got sidetracked again?
No, not really. No, we were just asking kind of general
Just asking about the
questions.
strikers and their,
Yeah.
you know.
You asked
I
about
mean,
the
you
box.
have.
I asked
five
about the
piece.
box.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were talking about the boxes. We have some here on display here. So is the Green Reaper your newest?
No,
No.
that's a 20. We'll call that late 2023. Yeah, 23. This would be for 24.
Okay.
And now I will run one. These are 9-inch box called 9-inch paddle. That's a 7. And I probably wouldn't have done a 7, but my good friend and partner, Larry McCoy from Respect the Game TV, told me he wanted a smaller box, something smaller than what I have for a pocket. And the guys down south, I quote, the turkeys love the higher end yelps, the high pitch. So I said, well, buddy, I don't know what I can do with that. And he sent me a call from a company that he used to work for, Dual.
Mhm.
And he sent it to me, and I'm not kidding you. The rails were the thinnest rails I've ever seen. It almost felt like if you held it, you were going to break it. But that thing screamed. Okay? So I had it, and they're close, but as you can see, those rails aren't real thin. But you said about right here.
Yeah, just I'll
Yeah.
turn your mic
This
down
would
a little bit.
be a one-note yelp. This is a 2-note yelp. You hear that break?
Mhm.
That 2-note yelp comes from about right there. Ken, if you see that.
Yep.
Megan, you see that? When you stay out, now all boxes are different. I'm speaking for Roost in Peace. Out here is a 1-note yelp. When you let that paddle come to about right there, as you are coming back across in your yelp, you are going to hit that second note by accident. And what I mean by that is, here's your 1. Now watch it fall. When it gets to damn near crossing over, it's going to bark and hear your rope in your 2-note. And people ask, well, what do I need that for? Well, you can do a 1-note yelp at a gobbler for a half hour, and he may just be out there spinning it. And you throw a 2-note yelp, and it's the one he needed to hear. And
Absolutely.
now you're doing this. So your 1-note is here. 2-note.
Okay.
Heard?
Mhm.
I mean, obviously.
And you're right about that. I mean, that's why I carry so many different calls, because you
You
never
have-
know what the hell's going to work.
And
Yeah.
as a turkey call maker, you want to hear people say that, but it's the truth. It is
It
the
is.
truth. A gobbler in a field at 100 yards with or without hens, with hens harder, without, act like you don't even hear you, and you hit a right note out of another whatever, and game on. And it could be that one note to a 2-note yelp.
Mm-hmm.
It may not. You may throw the 2-note yelp, and you still might get that. But you got to mix it up.
Right.
And so once again, 1 note, 2-note. That's your 1 and 2-note yelps in a box call. So that led to this. And you've ran all of these, and they are all a come across the rail box call that breaks into a 2-note yelp and carries rasp. All of them.
Right.
I'm going to do this one after the other, and you'll hear the difference. Guys down south, turkeys down south, they want this. And I named it Little Sissy because when you hear it,
Yeah.
okay,
It's different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Sounds like
it
a squeaky chair.
juvenile. It sounds juvenile to me.
Right. That's what they want.
Larry heard this and went, attaboy. Maybe not those words, Larry, when you watch it. What did you say to me? I don't know. It's a go, whatever. He liked it. So, Little Sissy, 2024 new.
So where'd the name come from?
The name, well, it to me, sounds like not a sissy turkey. And when you hear, I mean, think back to when if you heard somebody talking in that, you little sissy, you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Okay.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's great.
But there are other reasons for little sissy. Little sissy. Our friends at Saforno and Jeanette, Chrissy, and the waitresses, the owner, actually the waitresses, Carrie and Christy, they have this ongoing thing. She became part of the family, and they call one another sissy. So I can say that we're doing it because of how it sounds, but we'll say it's for Chrissy.
Nice.
And the girls at Saforno. Little Sissy.
That's awesome.
But it still will
Yeah.
break. It still will. It'll
Oh, yeah.
it'll still 2-note, but it's just a higher end yelp.
Now,
New for 2024, the Little Sissy.
so
Wow.
you'll have them.
I will have
For
those
sale
at
this
the
year.
show, yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Would Creek Archery like some of those?
Absolutely.
I'll see what I can do for you. I know a guy.
You know a guy?
I do. I know a guy.
Right. Absolutely. So,
Wow. Do we? Oh, sorry. Go
I
ahead.
have a question.
yeah.
Matt Christ, eat your heart out. Do you have any water?
Yeah, we do.
Can we get a bottle?
Absolutely.
I'm doing all the talking and I'm drying up.
Yeah, absolutely. We can get you.
I'll run. You want me? I'll run down and grab it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grab a bottle of water. We'll keep rolling here.
Yeah.
But, the logo. So
I
you
told
had a
Matt.
logo, and then you obviously had to change it up.
Yeah, that logo will now be like that. Aside from seeing Little Sissy, see, I actually put the logo like that. Because, see, the old ones, I did break apart to put more on the paddle just to, well, now it's going to be here, and if I call it a name, it'll be here. But going into, as these wean out,
Mm-hmm.
there will be no more. They'll all look like that or like this with the actual logo
Right.
on the paddle, yes.
Nice. Yeah, they look. I mean, they're super good looking calls. They sound great. You got so many options. I know. I saw too. You have.
See, I wasn't the only one that needed
Look at
to
that.
say
Yeah,
it. I was just the only one to
He
say it.
Ken's the go-to
I was just
guy.
the only one to say it.
He is the go-to guy.
Thank you, Ken.
I still have my.
Oh, you're.
So you now have with
you,
the
buddy.
with the
You're welcome.
strikers the wet stick.
Yes.
Now, does that wet stick work with all of your pots, or is that just for a certain? For
It will run them all. It will all that wet stick. I believe most affected on a damp morning on the slate and the aluminum. I feel it gets the most bite, but it will run all surfaces. If you have that and you get some moisture on your call, it'll run it. Not stage worthy calling, not the best you're ever going to call, but
it'll get
When
the
you-
job done.
yeah, I don't want to. When you take a, this is the one we're going to use in school. If you take a aluminum.
Nothing.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's
right.
nothing there.
Yeah.
So with that striker, you will make noise. Like I said, you're not going to win the NWTF Nationals, but it will get you through
Right.
the elements.
Okay. My favorite pot call that you have, and I thought this was cool. I mean, I don't know if anyone else does anything like this.
They do. I know what you're going to say.
Yeah,
And yes, they do.
The over and under.
Yes.
I love this call because it does give you a couple different tones. I like that the backside of this, early in the morning, tree.
The
yells,
tree talk, yes.
I mean, that's just
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. And then to be able to turn this thing over when needed and just start laying into it.
Show the lift that up and show like the back of the
Yeah,
package.
so this is, you're looking at the aluminum call here on the front, and when you flip that bad boy around, you've got the small slate on the back.
Yeah.
Other calls, there are other companies that make obviously that name came from a guy at work. All my calls are not named. In other words, that one's just called by the wood, hickory walnut.
Right.
Purple heart walnut. This one has a name. That has a name. The green reaper has a name. They all don't have a name. I've been thrown names. I like when people throw names, and I say, hey, look. Like I just, not that long ago, buddy said, hey, how about this? He says a name, and I go, no. And this is good that I get to say this on here too, because I say no. And they immediately think, well, that was ignorant. But I don't get to say to them, they don't know about this story, Chris.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know about how many names I wrote on a tablet. No disrespect to anyone that's given me a name and I said no. But they don't know how many times that I wrote one name or 20 or 15 and went home and looked it up and thought it was the one and had to say no because it was already out there.
Right.
So for them to give me a name, if I really like it, like that over and under, friend of mine, Don Warren at work, we're sitting, at work one day, and I said, hey, that two-sided pot, I need a name. And he, for some reason, he was on the gun thing. He said double barrel or something like that. And I said, no. And I mean, it wasn't long. And he said over and under. And I go,
bingo.
And he gets that credit for that. And on
name.
every one of those,
Great name.
I don't know if that was does it say it on the back of that one? Because
On
I
the-
just
on the
started
call?
lasering.
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, it says
Some
over
do.
and under on it. Yeah.
And so, because now I put it on all of them.
I
But
mean, the name, and I've said it, even just like, with us picking our podcast name, things like that. You want sometimes it takes a while to come up with an end result that could be simple.
We threw around so many names. We
We were texting each other just back and
Just
forth.
not
Right.
Like-
Yeah, then that's what
Yeah,
you
that's
do. But
not
this,
good.
You just need to do that right now. Go ahead, because I am literally, I know what you said you wanted me to do, but I'd like to hear some of this too. I mean, so go ahead.
so my point to this is
The heck with them turkey calls.
no,
Let's hear about Broken Nock.
we're here to talk about this.
All right.
The over and under, it says it right there.
Mhm.
It says it. It does. That's what I mean. When my buddy said that name, I just give him a.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of names that I didn't go.
Right.
And listen, anybody that gives me ideas, that lets me know that you're thinking about what I got going on and you want to be a part of it, even if it's a name. And that means a lot to me. But when I say no, don't take offense to it. It's just, I'm picky, and
It's out of
if it's-
passion, too.
if it's the one, I'll tell you that's the one.
Mhm.
And that's that. And just like Ken said, 100%. It's out of passion.
Yeah.
It's not that you don't want somebody's input or opinion, but end result, you want it to be 100% perfect.
Yeah.
Now, is there, so what would be, let's say, okay, new turkey people, they're watching this, they're listening. What is the ought for this? I'm getting a brain fart right
The
now.
need
Yeah.
for that
Yes.
on glass.
The need in the style or the coarseness of your pads, your sanding pads.
Okay. Scotch Brite makes a green.
Mhm.
People have been using green Scotch Brite on turkey calls since turkey calls.
Mhm.
And that's fine. There are things in the way I have learned that green Scotch Brite is not going to hurt your turkey call. However, maroon is a little less coarse
Okay.
and not as easy to find. I just had a guy message me the other day, where do you get that?
Mhm.
Because green's everywhere, maroon is not. It's a little bit lighter coarse, and I like using that. So I give that with each call that it goes with.
Mhm.
I give you a couple pieces, and I either say, get back to me, I'll get you more, or you can get it on whatever, and they get it. But maroon is for slate, aluminum, and strikers.
Okay.
The
Hold this.
drywall
hold this up,
screen
so-
is for
Okay,
glass
say that.
and crystal.
Yep. Just
Yeah,
so
the
everybody
over and
sees
under
the
here
drywall
has the-
screen.
That
Yes.
everything in the
Yeah.
over and
Screen
under
this year
gets
is gonna
maroon.
Have the maroon in there.
Yeah, no screens for the over and under. No screens for slate. No screens for aluminum. Glass and crystal get the drywall screen. The coarse 80 grit drywall screen. I start all those. That's another thing we can get into. Your calls here, you wanted those scuffed with a match striker. I have to ask some people, hey, do you want that call scuffed? Because when you start making a call cosmetically that people don't want to use, I was a collector. There are calls that I have that were meant to kill turkeys, but they've never left the shelf. They're there for somebody that comes over and go, hey,
Right.
look what I have. Big deal, but whatever. So if you start making, so to speak, a prettier turkey call, and guys go, I mean, I've had guys say, hey, Roop, I don't even want to scuff this. I'm just going to.
Right.
That led me into I should have brought one, but the little display stands. So now I offer that display stand because people go, I'm not going to hunt that. I'm just going to put it on a shelf. Okay. So the average hunter wants that call scuffed, so I match a striker. But there are calls in other stores that the owner of the store chose not to have the call scuffed, and that's their decision.
Right.
However, when you scuff it, the striker that's in that pack may not be the one that I would have put in there. And I try to tell all them people that.
That makes sense.
And that's to each their own.
Right.
Yeah.
And you being the exception and a couple others, I do not scuff those for shows or the shop, my shop. And why that is I like people to see that call brand spanking new. It's never had a striker put to it. Nothing. It is completely ice glass across there.
Mm-hmm.
I let them see all of there is, all the camo, the feather, whatever art I put in it. They pick it and go, I want that one. I go, okay, well, this is the hardest part about making a pretty turkey call. I've now got to put a square on that for you to run it to kill turkeys.
Right.
To hunt turkeys. And I do that. What's my point? You remember what my point was?
Yeah. I mean, now that you scuffed it up, it's not going to be
So
untouched. It's not going to look.
So the brand new call, see, we were getting deep. The brand new call that I let that person pick at a show or at my shop is unscuffed. There is no match striker. They pick it, and then I put the stone to it right in front of them.
Yeah.
Match a striker to that and go here. And they seen that call go from brand spanking new to no one else's hands but mine, scuffed and then sold to them, and knowing that they are the only person to ever use it.
It's a match set.
It's like buying a brand new car, not a used one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. And I mean,
No one's
even,
ever driven it
listen,
other than me for
even-
2 seconds.
Yeah.
even scuffed up, they look sweet. You know, you have a lot of different options here as far as,
Yes.
you know, colors and whatnot. You know, like you said, the feathers, you know, I mean, that.
Yeah.
the
This
one there, I
Bottomlands
think
one
that's
looks nice.
Mossy Oak Bottomlands finish there.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet looking.
That
Mhm.
is, I got to find. Do you know any hydro dippers?
I'm sure we can hook you up
I'm
with
in
some.
search of a new hydro dipper. If anybody's watching this, can reach out for me.
Yeah.
Locally,
Yep.
that does hydro dipping. I had one in Ohio, and I'm no longer with them, but I thought it was cool. I was going to put decals on the soundboards, and I stopped doing that. There are probably a couple hundred calls in circulation with a decal on that soundboard. So that decal is underneath that piece of glass or crystal, and I don't know how people take care of their call. And I thought if that was left in the sun, in the cold, if that decal peels, that's on me. And I know there's a lot of call makers that put a decal, because you can put anything. I could put, your colored logo on a decal,
Mhm.
and put in there on a 3-inch sticker. Yeah, that looks really cool. But in 5 years, if that comes off, it's not on Creek Archery that didn't stick.
Right.
It's on the guy that made it.
Right.
So I would rather hydro dip, which is those camo calls are now hydro dip. That's not coming off because that's what they're putting on guns. And a gun's being handled, that is not. That's never going to be touched. So that's going to be on there forever.
Right.
That's why I started hydro dipping, and I thought the camos were cool.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And
So appearance-wise, people see that and go, "Oh, cool camo." And
yeah, I mean, it works. I mean, it's especially right now. We see it even here with the bows right now. Bottomlands is
Oh my
hot.
God, it's blowing up. Dial
it is,
just released
yeah,
that.
and vintage bottomlands,
Yes.
the old school.
Right.
Um,
The old school realtree, like the vest.
Well, that right there is old school bottomland.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Yep.
So that,
How much
and like
you
I
want for
said, what's it say on there?
I don't know, but you're probably going to mark that up. I think it's $74.99. Can I get some kind of deal?
I mean, we can
Work
talk
with me.
We'll talk off.
All right, I'm thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That ain't a bad looking call.
obviously, I mean, if I owe you money right now,
Plus tax.
to deal with my turkey, I mean, we'll work something out.
Don't forget tax.
you know who got me that thing? The boss,
Yeah.
Amy.
Mm.
Yeah.
I was in search of, and she said, "Here, Todd, $14.99, whatever." They were cheap. The
Yeah.
blue ones.
Yeah.
And they work. They're good. They're good.
And she doesn't know how to reload them, so she just buys a new one every single time.
That's hilarious. Who reloaded mine? At Chico, remember? I come over to your booth. I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I don't know who it was. It was it
Mike-
Egros?
It might have been
Egros is
Egros
the
that did
only
it.
one.
Yeah.
Egros
Yeah, he
loaded.
knows. Yeah,
He reloaded
knows
once
what
a
to do.
night.
There you go.
Yeah, Amy just says, $14.99 in the trash pile.
Yeah. For that price.
So,
All right, where were we?
well,
I think we're getting close to class
I
time.
mean, that's it.
Oh, yeah.
So we have us a student of the hunting game here, and it's
Student of everything, right?
Megan being my oldest daughter, that
Lovely. You've used that. Everyone, you lead with that.
absolutely, and because I'm so excited about the fact that I'm getting a chance to hunt with her.
That's
And,
big.
When she was little, we've talked about this. She, it wasn't her thing, which was cool. I mean, she was around it. I'd bring the deer home, and she's there, and she'd shoot her little bow here and there. But I never got to hunt with her. So one of our very first hunts this year, which will be filmed, because other than, like I told you before, other than our podcasts and our product reviews, we will be filming our hunts as well that we'll put on YouTube. One of our very first hunts is going to be her turkey hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna kill that turkey that you can't kill.
Boy, if that happened.
Wow.
I won't jack him at all.
That's
I won't say a word if that happens.
So, well, then I
Inch and
guess
7/8.
Yeah.
So we want to have a little bit of school here.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if, I know when they were younger, and if I was their coach at a sport, it was always tough to be
Oh, you
the
can't
coach.
teach me anything.
Yeah,
'cause
and be the
don't
dad
work
because
well
they don't
together.
want to listen. So
Okay.
I don't want to teach her how to use a turkey call.
Okay, and
So I figure we got the guy here for that.
Chris, and I'm going to do that. Chrissy is the only person that I can't teach. She's the only one. Oh, we tried, and I was doing that. Give me that. So that's another story in itself. It's a funny
Keep
one.
talking. I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to adjust some of the cameras.
Oh, okay.
Bring it in a little bit more.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, bring it in.
So teaching, for Chrissy, she said, well, don't you think it would be smart if, people come to your shows and I can do it? I said, yeah. I said, that's a very good idea. Let's do it. Now, I really enjoy teaching people how to run a friction call. And I've done it a lot, and I welcome people to do it, meaning at my house, at my shop, what have you, at shows. It's part of the process of buying. I'll teach you how to run that call. I like doing it, and I've done it to a lot of people. What they do after they leave me is on them, but I tell them, you got to keep doing what you're doing, because if you just let that sit, you got to start all over.
Right.
Stay with it a little bit, just to
Keep
tune up,
working it.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
So Chrissy said that, and we were in the shop one day, and I started with the thing, and it was all going good, and I handed her the thing, and I'm showing her the grip and this and that and the other, and next thing you know, I don't know why, because she was doing fine.
Ken, make sure that you're not.
I mean, perfectly fine. And I don't know why I did it, but I said, give me that. Well, when I did that, she's never seen me do that to anyone. She's watched me show people a lot.
Right.
And I never said, give me that. Well, when I said, give me that, now it's on. Oh, that was the end. So it's not really her. She's coachable, but I kind of screwed up, and I'll admit that. I'm sorry, dear. We're going to do it. And
Keep working it.
yeah.
Well, I mean, hey, Megan.
Well, I'll tell you what
let's
we're going to do.
If you can learn something.
We're going to make this very interesting. Ken, are you going to be a part of this?
Yeah.
I want you to be.
Okay.
And at first, when you said, I want you to teach Megan, now, I know where I stand with that. We're at ground zero with Megan. Never turkey hunted, right?
Never.
Turkey called.
Hunted.
Never.
All right. Ken?
6, 7 times.
Okay. To the extent of sitting with the buddy he was calling, or you called?
More sitting with a buddy. He was calling. I've played with calls. We were playing with one
We
earlier.
had a
All
call and our
so-
dog ate it a couple years ago.
I know.
They do make good chew toys.
They do.
Roost in peace chew toys.
There you go.
All right. The possibilities are endless.
Oh, there's so many
Mhm.
products you can have.
Okay. So what I want to do is I have slates. I didn't bring everything, and these are my demos. But I'm going to give Megan a slate. I'm gonna have a slate. I need to for what I'm gonna do, and then I want you to take an aluminum, and I want you to take an aluminum, and we'll have a little fun with this.
Okay.
Okay.
Now I know that you've ran friction. I've seen you do it. But I want to start you like you've never done it before and see how this goes. What you're going to do is get taught how I came up with a way to teach everyone I teach. I don't teach anyone any different unless is anyone here not right-handed? Everyone's right-handed?
Yep.
That's a good start. But I have taught lefties how, and it's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, because they're holding it. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. So, with that being said, let me get.
He's going to go through all of them.
No,
I'll tell you
no.
that.
I want to do one with a little rasp, because that's the one I want Megan to have. That's going to be probably it right there. You keep those two right there. That's going to be yours. This is going to be mine.
The pencils
Who
are
put
off.
the level on this table? Who set this up?
It's antique. It's an antique. It's not the. Yeah.
Oh, wait. We're going to keep that here. Hold on. A little heavy on that one.
Let me see if I can plug your phone so it doesn't die.
You even get look at that. You even get a one piece.
Oh, my. I'm
Okay.
special.
Now, before we even start, no, I'm not even going to do that. I'm waiting until Ken's sitting.
Yeah, sorry.
No, don't be sorry, buddy.
These are unscripted podcasts, so, we got our...
Our lights are working.
Well, you
today.
have the ability to edit when it's over.
Yeah, but we just roll with it.
Yeah.
So everything you said, people are going to hear it.